So welcome, everybody. I want to welcome you to the Ageno School of Business at Golden Gate University. This is our Innovation and Practice series. And today we're going to be learning about how to empower your next virtual meeting, which obviously we've gotten off to a really rockin' start with all our great music. Before we begin, I want to do a little bit of housekeeping, which is to tell you that you're going to receive a recording of both the presentation and the workshop, which will be following the presentation. So look for it in the next few weeks. It'll take a few weeks to get there. And lastly, I want to give a really big shout out to our team, Irene and Zenas, for all the work that they've done. A huge thank you to John, and a very big thank you to Marie Sparks, who introduced us to John, and we're so grateful for that. She finds really wonderful people for us to meet, and John is right at the top of the list. So lastly, I'd like to introduce John. He is, as you can probably tell, he's energetic and enthusiastic and charming on top of all these things. And he's also the author of the #1 Amazon bestseller, new book release, Engaging Virtual Meetings. He's been a meeting virtually for over 35 years. He's produced over 4,000 virtual meetings, including 8 language meetings, and the only 100% live virtual conference in the training industry. So I'd like to turn this over to John, say thank you, and we're really looking forward to today's, what we're going to learn and how we're going to learn it and how we're going to feel about it. So it's really great. Thank you so much.
I'm John Chen. I'm the author of a book called Engaging Virtual Meetings. And I want to just share a little bit, how did I get here? So the first part is that I had an illustrious 26-year career in team building. If anybody knows what geocaching is, go ahead and chat what geocaching is in the chat. Right, so basically, I taught team and leadership programs using geocaching, which is like a high-tech treasure hunt that used GPS receivers. Yes, Marie says like a scavenger hunt. That's right on. Right, and then of course, remember, go back. It seems so far away now, but March of 2020, this little thing came around and just screwed up the world a lot. And for me, this is what my world looked like. I had 15 canceled programs in March of 2020, and as a small business owner, this is basically all of my business. But here's another good one. Let's just see, when faced with uncertainty, one of my strategies is to look at the past. Does anybody know what this is? If you do, feel free to unmute and let me know, what is Prodigy? I see some laughter. I'm waiting to see if somebody, Larry, hey Larry, do you mind if, I think Larry is the first person I saw who knows what this is.
Is that from the 20th century?
Yes, what else do you know about Prodigy?
It's the precursor to AOL. It's internet.
There we go. Thank you, Marianne. So yes, basically, this was the world's first graphical-based meeting space online over 35 years ago, prior to America Online. Right? So I've been meeting online for a long time. In addition, I wrote this book called 50 Digital Team Building Games. I wrote this book in 2011. So for decades, I've been trying to tell people, we can do this. We can do meaningful work. We can save the travel and expenses. We can have dinner with our family and friends at the end of the day. But everyone at the time, before March of 2020, said, hey, John, here's a bunch of money, and you need to fly to Orlando, right? So anyways, I'm sitting in my office in March of 2020, and I don't make vaccines, but I do know how to make a virtual meeting better. So I put a class up on Eventbrite. And the class was called Virtual Team Building. And my intuition said, give it away for free. At a time when there was so much uncertainty, there was so much chaos in March of 2020, I said, give this class away for free just to try and help the many people who are struggling with the change that's happening in the world. Well, 5,000 people took the class. And then my publisher called me back and they said, hey, do you want to write your second book? And I said, sure. Right? And is it Gogi? If I'm pronouncing your name, I want to make sure I'm saying your name right. Gogi or Gogi?
It's Gogi.
Gogi. Thank you so much, Gogi. So then my publisher comes back, all right, Gogi, and they play what I feel like is the cruelest joke on me. And they said, we don't know how long this coronavirus thing is going to last. Will you please rush the book? Right? Spoiler alert for those who are not epidemiologists. I had an entire friend's family get COVID in Alaska last week. So it's still going on. And I wrote this book in 9 weeks. For the academics or the authors in the room, is 60,000 words. in 9 weeks. Came out in October 2020, hit the #1 Amazon hot new release, and now I spend the majority of my time designing, producing, speaking at, and emceeing virtual meetings. So I want to give you my #1 tip. How many of you speak at virtual meetings? Just raise your hand if you speak at a virtual meeting. Marie, good. Elaine, almost everybody who's got a camera on, thank you. And even Courtney, thank you, Courtney Davis. So this is my #1 tip for all of you who speak on virtual meetings. Here we go. Well, I think it was Sue-Ann said she's tired of sitting, right? If you're speaking, then stand up. Find different ways to stand up, right? Even if you don't have this fancy setup, what you can do is just get your camera to eye level when you're speaking, right? I mean, you're all attending today too. You can stay seated. But when you're speaking, if you find a way to stand up, you'll find out that you can get into the top 20% of all speakers just by standing up. In fact, I gave this tip to a gentleman in an LA conference, and he called me back, or he went and scheduled a meeting with me 2 weeks later. And he said that he went on an interview show, and he did 2 things. He said he stood up, right? And he made sure and made eye contact, or no, he made sure to use hand gestures, right? Using hand gestures, by the way, will help increase trust with you by 20% if you show your hands at least once during a virtual meeting. He said that it was the best interview he had in over his last 10 interviews, and that he, over the other guests, he felt like he really shined versus the other guests. And that's all he did was stand up. So yeah, so this is a tip. And if the funny part is the 4 famous people on the last screen forgot about this tip. So anyways, this tip is stand up. If you need to present at a meeting, think about all the different ways you can stand up. So now I can just share the rest of what did I do with my last 3 years, right? How am I doing this? So you're Golden Gate. I just want to show you how the sausage is made, and for the vegetarians, how, you know, maybe the field roast is made. But this is here, right? As I made a green screen big enough that I can stand in it. And here's the other part that I have here too. This is actually what's in front of me right now. So this is what I've developed over the last 3 years. Now, I don't show this to you for you to think like you should actually make one of these, but I do show this to show you what the possibilities are on virtual and how I'm doing many of the things that I have here. So these 6 screens are dedicated to my computer. I'm actually monitoring what's going on. This is a backup computer over here, but it also allows me to see what's going on. These buttons over here, this is called a Stream Deck. All right, so for those who don't know, I'm going to give you an equipment list at the end of today. But here, this is called a Stream Deck, and this is what allows me to automate everything inside of here. So now I can push this button and come back here. I'm going to teach you 6 things before I get the chance to meet each of you. So I would like to get the academic part out, make sure that I fulfill that part of the writer. But we're going to have fun doing it. So I'm going to teach you 6 things. And the 6 things have an acronym so that you can help remember it. And it says engage. And Sue-Ann and Marie and Irene, if you can just chat along with the group with me, that would be a help. Okay, so engage. Every letter stands for something. And every time you do one of them, the odds that your virtual meeting are perceived as engaging go up. So this is called my 6-step engagement, 6-step engage method. The first E stands for engage. Engage and interact with every attendee. So as you can tell here, even from the beginning, right, I took a moment to say hi to a few of our people like Larry or Elaine. But let me do you a favor. Alessandra, do you mind if I bring you up? You can unmute and just let me know it's okay.
Yeah, sure. I feel nervous.
Thank you for saying yes through your nervousness. Alessandro, where are you calling in from today?
I'm calling in from Oakland, California.
Oh, Oakland? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, outstanding. And what are you interested in today? Why did you click register for today's program?
I heard Marie Spark mention how engaging and interesting this would be. And then I read a little bit about you, and I thought this would be a great use of my time.
Outstanding. And what's one of the challenges that you have within your virtual meetings still today?
Yeah, a lack of engagement from participants. People often turning off their screen, kind of watching, checking out, doing something completely different. There's not enough, there's often no interactive content, which leaves people kind of feeling like they're just watching something, not really engaging well. So that's what I've experienced so far.
Yeah, thank you, Alessandro. So, well, let me start with an easy one. On a scale of 1 to 10, how engaged are you right now?
10. I must be 10 engaged right now.
Yeah, so this gives me to two pieces here, Alessandro, which is number one, I have two really core beliefs. Number one is I want this meeting to be different because you, right, Alejandro, are here. So that's the, or was it Alessandro? Is that the correct pronunciation?
Yeah, it's like the Italian version of Alejandro.
Ah, Alessandro. Excellent. Thank you. Ciao, ciao bella. So Alessandro, so no, and the second one is this, all right, Alessandro. My second belief is I allocate half of this program for you, the audience, to talk, not me. So one, it actually makes my life easier, right? But number two is that's one of the ways to get the engagement is to do things like this and bring people up. Thank you so much, Alessandro. Feel free to chat if you have any other questions later today. And thank you for saying yes.
Hi, everybody.
So this is one of the keys is to engage, but there's different ways. You can, of course, do this, which is bring people up at different times, but you can also go into the chat, right? So, we've already talked to some people inside a chat. We asked you where you live. Look for all the different ways that you can engage and interact with people. And one of the goals is that Sue Ann, Marie, Irene, and myself, we're trying to engage with each of you at least once before the end of the meeting. So again, feel free to chat to any one of us during the program if you have a question. So that's the E. Have a plan to engage and interact with every attendee before the end of the program. All right, so now, how many of you host programs? In other words, you're the person who creates the meeting. Thank you, Elaine, right? You make the link, you let people in. All right, thanks, Jeannie. Okay, good. So thanks, Wade. Oh, look at Nadia, Courtney. Thank you for all the raised hands over there, too. So this is one of the problems, right, is the overwhelmed host. So I had a friend and she started creating a class in March of 2020. And she suddenly realized all the things that she has to do. So for her new class, here are all the things that she had to do. She wrote the marketing, wrote the registration, set up her Zoom room, ran her own security, kept track of engaging with every person. She recorded to stream to Facebook Live. She shared her own slide deck, chatted with attendees while presenting, set up and ran the breakout room, shared the video and the chat logs after the meeting. And do me a favor, just unmute. Give me one word how she might have felt after the end of that meeting.
Stressed.
Overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed. Anyone else?
Tired.
Tired. Excellent. So that's what we're saying is that hosting is really a challenging job as well as this presenting is. And so one of the keys here, the N in engage stands for never lead a meeting alone, right? Look for different ways to have people to help. Again, I thank you to, again, my hosts, right? Sue Ann, Irene, Marie, they're all here to help out. And right now, for instance, I can't touch the keyboard. So they're able to chat along with me. And so that the four of us are all working together, right? All of us have the same goal. That did you know, like 100 people registered for this program? That our goal is to try and give something back to those 100 people that registered. Okay, so that's and never lead a meeting alone. Even if you don't have someone who's a paid producer, I talked to a lot of people in academia, and they finally got onto the other solution, which is pick a student. Right, pick an attendee to your class and put them in charge of the chat and rotate who that different person is. And you'll find that might be another way to engage one of your students who might normally have their camera off, might not be interacting. Okay, here comes the next challenge. You might have seen a few of these online. How about, I'm too close to my camera? Or my good friend, my internet froze. How about the ceiling, right? Look at that, I got way too much headroom. And of course, my best friend, I have no idea how to use a green screen. So the next letter is G, and the G stands for good looks. Do what you can to look great online, and especially pay attention to things like your background here. So for instance, I put a few things here in my background to help, create an impression with you. And again, you do this in your normal office. Like if I walk in most academia's office, they're arranged in such a way that I get a feeling or a thought when I walk in that room. Your virtual is the same way. So I put things here like, this is an award. I actually got 2 US patents during the 10 years that I worked at Microsoft. The next one is a book. I wrote a book. So maybe I'm author, at least I know how to write 60,000 words. The next one here is a photo. And the photo, if you can't see it, is a photo of me skydiving. Kim, do you mind if I bring you up? Hi, Kim. Kim Highland. How are you doing?
No problem. Hi there.
Thanks. Where are you calling in from today, Kim?
Mountain View.
Oh, Mountain View.
California.
Yeah, I love Mountain View. My sister's what, Cupertino, right? I'm in the right neighborhood, right?
Yes, you are. Just
Okay,
south
cool.
of me.
Okay, so this is a picture of me skydiving, and Kim, you just met me, right? We don't know each other.
Okay.
Great. So if you saw a picture of me skydiving in the background, what might you guess about me? What might you be able to surmise about me?
That you like adrenaline sports?
Excellent. Okay, great. And if I invited you to go skydiving tomorrow, what would you say?
Yes, I've been before.
Oh my gosh. Say more, Kim. When was the last time you went skydiving?
Probably 5 years ago in New Zealand.
Oh, New Zealand. Oh, that is like the adventure, the adrenaline country, right?
Yeah, I went bungee jumping afterwards too. It was pretty cool.
Oh, I was one of the first to bungee jump here in Seattle. Do you know Nanaimo, right, in Canada?
No, I've never heard of it.
It's the island. It's basically, I think it's billed as the world's first bungee jump bridge.
Oh, very cool. I'll have to look it up.
And I went like years and years and years ago. So this is great too. So now Kim too and I, like, we have something in common. Because it's funny, Kim, right? I usually get two answers to this, which is heck yeah and heck no.
I'm on the heck yeah side.
Outstanding. Great. And what's one of your challenges, if you don't mind me asking? What are you still challenged by virtual meetings?
So I think for me during virtual meetings, one of the things I find actually as a participant that can be frustrating, so I would imagine it's also frustrating for a presenter, is people not really knowing Zoom etiquette, so interrupting, speaking maybe when they shouldn't speak. So I think it's helpful. I've found anyways in online meetings to have some sort of intro in terms of kind of what you're expecting for the meeting, whether it's going to be, we're going to do a presentation first, then Q&A, giving the audience a bit of a guide before you start. So
it's so funny, Kim, right? You're at least as smart as ChatGPT. If you ask ChatGPT, right, how do I make a virtual meeting more engaging? One of the first tips that it gives there is share the agenda.
Oh, cool.
Right, share the agenda. So
I'm glad to hear I'm at least as smart as ChatGPT. That's great to know.
We're not obsolete yet, Kim. Yeah, so just to share with you here too, the first hour of this program is designed to be presentation but interactive like this. And just so you know, the second hour, Kim, is designed, is going to be way more freeform. I'm going to be open to all of your questions. So if you are thinking about things or want to ask questions, please make sure and bring them up in the second half of the course. Although bring them up, you can bring them up as we go along. But I just want to let you know that that I have that section reserved for that. Thank you so much, Kim. Appreciate it.
Great. Thank you, John.
So just to go back to this point here about good looks, let me just give an example here. One of my friends went interviewing for a job, and he looked up his interviewer online on LinkedIn and found out that she's a Lakers fan, right? So she loved the Los Angeles Lakers. So he goes around on the internet and he changes background to this. That's right, Staples Center. Now, I know most of you are probably Golden State Warrior fans, but I'm just saying this is Lakers. This is the Lakers. Oh, no, I got a no from someone down there in the bottom. Okay, well, anyways, he found this online, right? Every basketball team and stadium, of course, puts some of these backgrounds, virtual backgrounds on for free. So he changed his background to this, logs into the meeting, right? He's waiting for the interviewer to come on. The interviewer, she logs in. She takes one look and she goes, okay, you got me. So they started talking about the Lakers for the first 5 minutes of the interview. And what he noticed was that she started to warm up, right? She started to warm up. Here, I'll just shortcut to the end of the story. He got the job. This is how valuable your backgrounds can be, right? It made the signal to this recruiter. Number one, this is different. Number two, this person did some research. Right? And number three, they customized and paid attention to who their customer is. And that gave her a whole set of signals to say, I should probably hire you. So that's the great part about good looks. Also, the other part around good looks, every minute that you spend improving your background is, you get the value for every minute that you spend online. Every minute that you spend online. So think about how you can look good. And of course, I think Larry said too, make sure part of looking good is sounding good. So make sure that you pay attention to your mic and how you sound here on virtual. All right, the next challenge that we have is, of course, here in virtual land, right? People all can't talk at the same time. And so we got to find different solutions for this. If you really want your virtual meeting to be engaging, again, when people talk at the same time, people have to repeat themselves because nobody can hear what's going on. So the number one solution that we have for that is the letter A, is air traffic control. This is a video of 5,000 flights in America. All right, and they're all flying at the same time and they don't crash into each other. Why? Because we have air traffic control. I'd like to say your audio channel is exactly the same way. Is that, do what you can as the host of the meeting to make sure that only one person is talking, as well as people know when they have the opportunity to talk, which is why often many people ask questions and of course you get silence, right? Nobody answering any of the questions. So we're just trying to look at how to most effectively use this audio channel. So I'll show you a couple different ways to do what we call air traffic control today. The next one here is this, can't work online. Here at our university in Seattle is University of Washington, otherwise known as UW. And April of 2020, I got a story where 7 PhDs at UW, right, were trying to make a decision for their students in a 1-hour virtual meeting, and they could not make that decision. So I asked one of them who was attending, and I asked her, why? Why did this happen? And she goes, well, there's 2 reasons, John. Number one, we don't have any systems, right, to meet online. So she said it took like 50 minutes to decide to use a Google Doc to collaborate. All right? And number 2, she said, is that we have no practice in making decisions online. Now, the good news is 2023, which is that we've all gotten a lot of practice, but there's still lots of different things. There's so much potential out there. So this is where this next letter, the letter G, comes in. G stands for get productive with virtual tools. Think about all the virtual tools that you have on your platform, right? And then think about how you can use them in lots of different ways. Here, actually, I'll show you one here. Let's go to the chat. So if you haven't seen what's called the new chat experience, right? I want you to turn on the pencil on the very bottom left. It's a pencil with a plus. Pencil with a plus. It's going to open up a formatting toolbar, right? And now I'm going to chat in color. I can chat in color. So I'm going to write a word. I'm going to highlight it. And now I'm going to change the color of the text. Red text on blue background. Okay, and now I'm going to hit send. There you go. So everybody else here, go ahead and see if you can create a colored base chat. There we go. Sue says woohoo. And then the other ones here, if you click the smiley face, you can add reactions. So I just put 2 hearts on Sue Ann. And the rest of you, if you don't know how to do that, just click the heart. Everyone click the 2 hearts and the number will go up. And this will tell how people, Sue Ann, how many people, right, appreciated her chat. So I see 3 people have, 4 people have. I see Marie Spark. I see Barbie Pink. Virginia said what? Oh yeah, there's fonts, right? Virginia found fonts, right? And Larry said, wow, this is so cool. So these are tools that are in each of the platforms. They're growing in. Here's also a fun one. Let me do this. Let me see. Mohan, could you just do me a favor and just make like a fun or funny gesture? Like a thumbs up or a wave, Mohan? There you go. Mohan, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. I'm feeling challenged.
That's okay. Can you just wave for a moment? There we
Like
go. Yeah, hold your hand up.
Okay.
There we go. I think I got it. Hold on. Okay, good. So here's one of the things that you can do too. There's a snapshot now in chat. Now again, Mohan, I hope you're okay with this. And there's the new feature here, which is I can delete this. Look, that's Mohan waving his hand. If you click the square with a plus, you can take a screenshot of virtually anything on your screen and put it there. And now, Mohan, I know I didn't get permission for you, so watch. I can also hit the 3 dots. I think because I'm the host, is that I can actually delete his message. His message just got deleted in the chat. So there's a few features in here around virtual tools. Something as simple as chat. There we go, Lane. Thank you. That's right on. I give you permission for that. To use these virtual tools and discover that there's new stuff being released virtually every week inside of each of these tools. So that's G, get productive with virtual tools. Thanks again, Mohan. Mohan, let me ask you one more question. Mohan, have you ever had Zoom fatigue?
Oh, yes, all the time.
So can you describe what happened to you when the last time you got Zoom fatigue?
Actually, I think it was bad enough that I just disappeared, turned off the camera, and went and got a couple cups of coffee, and came back 10 minutes later.
Oh, well, that's not too bad. So, Mohan, here, I'll share one of my stories. One time in 2020, I was meeting on a different platform than Zoom. Super intense meeting for 2 hours. We were planning something. And then I just got up from my computer. I went to my bedroom, Mohan, and I did this. And I didn't wake up till the next day, Mohan, right? I only had 2 questions after that. And the first one, Mohan, is, what truck hit me? And the second one was, why does this happen? So, Mohan, have you read any of the research on Zoom fatigue or video fatigue?
Not really.
So that was the key. Is after that moment in 2020, I've read almost all of it, right? And so let me give you the first one. The first one is like, you don't have the muscle for it. In other words, if you had not been on virtual meetings prior to 2020 and then tried to do an 8-hour day, it's going to hurt, right? It's like if you don't work out, like I don't work out as much as I used to, and then try and do an 8-hour CrossFit day, right? It's just going to hurt. So, that's one of the things that happen in Zoom fatigue. Mohan, do me one last favor. What's the maximum number of hours you've been on video or virtual in a single day?
Ooh, 6 or 7.
6 or 7. Excellent. Do you know what my maximum number of hours are in a single day? Just go ahead and take a guess.
Oh, maybe 16.
25 and a half. You're like, Mohan's going.
Who were you on Mars?
So what happened is I got hired to run a friend's birthday party, and she has friends around the world. So she wanted to stay up for 24 hours, and we ended up staying up to 25 and a half before we ended the meeting. So if you're wondering, for those who are on Zoom, you can actually run a 25 and a half hour meeting. Mohan, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Everyone, do me a favor. Go to the chat and chat the maximum number of hours you've been on virtual in a single day. The maximum number of hours. 10 hours for a day, 6, 12, 8, 7. While the other numbers come in, I'll give you two other reasons that I saw for Zoom fatigue. The one is this, right? It's great when you're here, right? You're listening to a great interactive presentation, and then the speaker comes to the most important point, and then, okay, Elaine got it because she's laughing her head off, which is one. No, I'm messing with you. But number 2 is when you have technical problems in your virtual meeting, right? Everybody's attendees' brains have to work extra hard. Right? So you've seen people when they elongate their vowels, right? The audio starts dropping. You work extra hard to try and make sense of the meeting. That was the second leading cause of Zoom fatigue. And the third one is this. Well, Janine, I'm going to teach you about the academics of virtual meetings for the next 4,238 hours. Okay, I can do it more. But I get to channel some Deepak Chopra when I do that. So that was the last part. If you, the presenter or the host of the meeting, don't bring the energy to the meeting, then that's another leading cause of Zoom fatigue. So let me give you my last letter. The last letter here in Engage is E, and that stands for this. E is end on a high note. This is our number 1 tip, our last tip in the 6-step method that says, it came from product market research. And it says, if you have a 60-minute demo with a product, and if you can architect a high note with that product in the last 3 to 5 minutes, people were more likely to buy. I'm just going to say your virtual meetings are exactly the same way. And we tested this in a training conference. It had 150 different sessions over the course of 5 days, and every presenter committed to ending on a high note somehow, such as reflecting on what you learned, right? Playing a mute song, playing an inspirational video. There are lots of different ways to figure out how to end on a high note. What was really key about it is it became the most engaging conference. And people found that if you end on a high note, it gave you the energy to end that meeting and click the link for the next one, so that you felt ready for it. So end on a high note is one of our last tips. All right, now let's get a chance to meet some of you. And again, hopefully some of you who are off camera, just feel free to unmute if you also want to participate in this. You can also raise your virtual hand, right? Your physical hand or your virtual hand. I want some people to introduce themselves. And what we want to do is just introduce with your name, your location, and Wern Virtual Meeting Challenge. You see me, I've been asking this question to quite a few people. So let's take the next few minutes and find out who else is here inside of this meeting. If you'd like to introduce yourself, again, raise your physical hand or your virtual hand. Let's go to Mia Johnson. Thanks, Mia, for raising your hand here in the virtual audience.
So first of all, my camera's off because I'm in a community that's doing some work with cabling. So my internet's spotty. But in regards to virtual meetings, I've been fortunate. Even before COVID, I was holding those doing training, and my training was global. So for me, I think it's always been just making sure when you're working with different cultures, understanding if they understand, understanding if they have questions, and making sure that they feel safe. And so that's always just been a challenge, and making sure I just capture everyone's requirements, and making sure that they ask the questions that need to be answered so they can move forward.
Thank you so much, Mia. Literally last night, I teach a team building class to Saudi Arabia.
Oh.
And the first time that I taught this class, Saudi culture is the culture I kind of know the least about.
Uh-huh.
And what's great about that, Mia, is that it gets into my number one piece of research about people participating. I have a very funny class, and it's called Turn on the Darn Cameras, right, Mia?
Uh-huh.
And the number one tenet around it is around Google's Aristotle's research. Mia, have you ever heard about Google Aristotle's research?
No, I have not.
So for those of you who can you can actually Google Aristotle. And they did research for high-performing teams at Google for 18 months. And they were trying to figure out, what do our high-performance teams have in common? And they're wildly different teams. One team is very structured, right? Sets deadline, meets deadline, ship their product on time. The other teams are wild and crazy, right? They look like they're going to crash in a wall. They come up with crazy ideas, and they ship a miracle at the end. They're both high-performing teams, and we've said, Google asked, what's the thing they have in common? Is it the office we give them, the equipment we give them, right? The leader of the group, the composition of the team? And it turned out it was actually none of those things.
Right.
You can read the research. There are 5 things, but the number one, Mia, was psychological safety.
Yes, you're right.
Defined as, I feel safe taking a risk in front of my team members.
Mm-hmm.
So Mia, I'm just curious, what's 1 or 2 things that you do to create psychological safety in your virtual meeting?
I do introductions, and with the introductions, I do not list the titles. Because when you list a title and you're having like an executive or something, people tend to shut down. So let's all be on the same playing field. My name is John, John Smith. And basically this is what I do, but don't list the titles. So that way people are like, okay, I don't know who you are, so I feel I can speak freely in front of you. And then the next one is, there's no judging. It's just all ideas are great ideas, and we're just going to move forward, because at the end of the day, we need to have a super awesome team. So that's what I do to make my team feel safe and secure.
Thank you, Mia. I don't think I've ever heard this tip of not use titles. Although recently I'm hosting and creating a conference that's in October. I'll tell you about it at the end of this program.
Okay.
But we have regular meetings every 2 weeks with a planning committee, and I couldn't make one of the meetings. And it was so great because I watched the recording of it later. They tore apart my registration website, right, that tells about the conference. There are like 8 people with like 20 years of marketing experience apiece. So I got like 160 years of marketing. And I think it was because I wasn't there that it was actually easier for everyone to say something, right? It's what I call bossism. So all of you who are managers or bosses, right? Sometimes you got to physically leave the room if you really want to hear some of the best feedback. Thanks, Mia.
You're welcome.
Anybody else who would like to introduce themselves? Thanks, Mia, for that. Great insight. Let's go to, is it Janine? Did I get it right?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Thank you. Janine.
So my name's Janine. I'm in Alameda, California. And one of the big challenges I have is that it's always the same people talking in the meetings. Like I do a quarterly user group meeting, and there's usually 30 or 40 people, but it's the same 5 people who are asking questions and making comments. And it often feels unbalanced.
Yeah, it is unbalanced, right? Which is great. You're thankful to have somebody who can talk, right? But you're looking to figure out how to reach into the others. So, Janine, have you ever heard of a participation map?
A participation map?
Yeah.
I have not.
Okay. So, and how many people are in your meeting?
Usually 30 or 40.
Okay. But you know who they all are, right?
Most of them, yeah.
So one way that we did it is even as early as teleconferencing, I ran a management class with Boeing. And we created something called a participation map, which is we took all the list of people, made it alphabetical so it was easy, and then left empty space to the right. Every time they said something, right, we would make a mark. Right? And then what it would do is that we would preference the people. So try and get the people who didn't have marks and choose them, right? Especially if 2 or more people said something. So the other part too is now, Janine, can you see the end of your name? Can you see that I put something at the end of your Zoom name right here on the bottom?
It looks like a trophy.
Yeah, there's a trophy. So we took this participation map, and one of the easy ways that we did this is started putting him on the like by using rename and adding emojis. So now what you could do is actually keep track of who all the people you talk to, right? And so this is how you remember we said never. All right, engage and interact with every single person before the end of the program. What you can do is now kind of keep track and try and make sure and get everyone before the end of the meeting in some way, shape, or form, whether it's by chat or something else. And you can have somebody else help you do this. What we found too is I think to preserve the psychological safety that Mia and I were talking about, one of our best tips is pass. So Janine, have you ever heard of the tip pass?
No, but I can guess it's if you call on somebody, they have the right to say pass.
Yeah. So at any time, if somebody could say pass, and I will never question it, right? It's totally okay. And I'll give them a mark to say, I tried to engage you and you said pass, and that's okay. And I won't bug you, right? For another, 10, 20 minutes or however until I get another round. And I can tell you the introverts in the house love it.
Yeah, I bet. No, but it can also give them a chance to talk, and if they're not comfortable raising their hand, right? So it works both ways. Oh, yeah. That's a great idea.
Yeah, excellent. So hopefully some of these tips will help you out, Janine.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Marie, you have an add-on for that.
Yeah, I have an add-on for that. This is something so I teach virtual classes. This is something a student once did where, rule those cameras on, and one day he put a teddy bear on the camera. And so he just texted like he was in the mood to be on the camera. So he put the teddy bear in the camera. So it was a way of having the camera on, but then it was like acknowledging he wasn't up to having the camera on. So I thought that was kind of a cool idea.
Outstanding. Thank you, Marie. And Courtney asks, is the participation map visible to participants? Usually no, but sometimes if you use the emojis, it's a yes. And my favorite part actually is that you start renaming people with emojis and then don't tell them. Because Larry's got it, like he figured it out. Because people will spend a good hour of engagement going, why the heck why does Janine have a trophy and I don't? Right? And so then later on, then we'll add something like that. So those are some of the best tips that we've had. Let's take one more. Does somebody else want to introduce himself? Especially somebody, let's see. Oh, Larry. Larry, was that you unmuting?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, Larry.
I am a proud GGU graduate of the Masters in Tax program. Yay. I now teach at College of San Mateo. I teach income tax. My classes are all virtual. And the challenge is, most of the students don't turn on their cameras. And I even tell the students, you get extra credit for participation. And the other challenge I had, a student asked me for a letter of recommendation. I said, I don't know who you are. You never participated? You got a C in my class. So no, I can't give you a letter of recommendation. Besides giving extra credit, what can I do? And how do you get that little trophy in the rename there? That's kind of cute.
Thank you so much, Larry. Yeah, Larry, you can actually do it yourself. One of them, it's if you're on a PC, it's Windows period. Oh wait, here I'll give you my tip. It's in the chat. Windows period on a Mac, it's Control Command Space, and it will open up an emoji keyboard. Here, let me see. I'm going to give you one right now, Larry. And since Larry's here, I'm gonna. Here's your trophy. And so now Larry has a trophy at the end of his name.
Oh, okay. I think
The second one around cameras, right? This is like one of the biggest, biggest challenges still to this date, Larry, is about getting cameras on. So again, I have a class called Turn on the Darn Camera. And one of the key pieces, just to go back to that, Larry, is to create so much psychological safety and value that people see more value in turning on their camera than not having their camera on. I will tell you that for the most part, I almost never tell anybody to turn their camera on, Larry. Right, so that's just one of the parts that I have. But because the real key too, Larry, in the class that I have, is I tell people is that not just to look for cameras on, but to look for, are they engaged, right? So for instance, I can now do things like Mia today was able to tell us why she wasn't able to turn her camera on, right? You know, she wants to, but she has a situation where she doesn't. But she has used audio or she has used chat. And all of those things are the things that I'm looking for, Larry, when I'm working a class, when I'm leading a class, is saying, is everyone engaged with that? So often I'll go down into the, non-camera parts. Sometimes I might, occasionally ask for permission or say somebody who doesn't have their camera on, could they raise their hand? So I look for different ways. I also give invitations too, Larry, to make sure I address both hands. So not just, well, raise your physical hand. That's why I also say, if you raise your virtual hand, it allows me to easily see somebody. So Larry, sometimes I would say the goal isn't necessarily to have everyone's camera on, although it's a huge win, right? Look, I can see Larry's body language. I can see Larry has some amazing bamboo. He probably has his Golden Gate University, right? Yeah, right there. His diploma is behind him. So, I learn a lot more about Larry with that. And so Larry, some of the other things that I do is also call out things, right? Without even calling on somebody. But if I say, I see Irene is shaking her head, right? Saying yes, right? I see that Kim raised her hand. I use people's names. And that, as you see that people get rewarded for engaging with me, they find out that if they want more of that they'll do that, and that they'll see things like turning on their camera may be beneficial to them.
Yeah,
So,
I think I think legally we can't force the students to turn on the camera.
No.
But the thing is, I tell them, you're in the classroom, back when we were in a real classroom, you're sitting in front of me. What do you do? Put a bag over your head? I don't know, right? So it's like, and I know on Zoom, there's a choice here where you can click that you've got like a classroom instead of this little grid here of boxes. I think it's somewhere in Zoom, it'd be like you're sitting in a lecture hall or something like that with everybody's picture there.
oh, you mean like this, Larry?
I still see the box. There we go. There we go.
So this is called, for those who don't know, this is called immersive mode. Hi, Elaine. I love that Elaine's just stretching out here. And so look, it does its best too to clip, like if you have, it will clip people's backgrounds, and now it looks like we're in a classroom setting. So yeah, Larry, you could attempt to use these things. And Larry, I'll tell you probably one of my other friends' tips. One of my good friends, Cassie Labori, created an exercise where she gave 4 virtual backgrounds in the chat. And you could choose any of the 4 backgrounds. She said, install, right? And put on the virtual background and in a breakout room and discuss with the people in your breakout room why you chose that background. And then the breakout room ends, 5 to 8 minutes later, and everyone comes back. She doesn't say anything, but most people, because they turned their camera on in the breakout room, and you have to turn your camera on to show your virtual background, they left them on in the room. And so my other friend had another story. 8 executives who would not turn on their camera. He put the 8 executives who would not put their camera in a breakout room, and they all started turning on their camera. When they came back from the breakout room, they all left their cameras on afterwards without the host or the instructor ever saying anything. So Larry, I invite you to try maybe those 2 techniques. Okay.
How did you get to this? I bumped into it once. I couldn't find it again.
Yes. First, you have to be the host. You cannot be co-hosted.
Okay.
And then on the top right, you're going to click View and Immersive Mode.
Okay.
And now let me do since Larry asked for this, I'll do one of the most entertaining things that I can see from here in Immersive Mode. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Okay, wait. So now, Larry, watch this. Now you can whisper in my ear, right? I'll put go here.
Wrong hand. Oh, wait, which
I
hand are we doing here?
You can actually drag
There we
people.
go. There we go. I'll sweeten nothings to you.
So this is one of the more entertaining ones. This is kind of like, right, Larry, you could be the angel, right? Gogi, you could be the devil, or whatever you want to do. But this is one of the other immersive modes. There's also a fireside chat. Let me just let's see if I can find something equivalent to a fireside chat. There we go. So this is another great way. If you have interviews or you're running a panel, right? So Sue-Ann and I can now run, like this. I could do an interview of Sue-Ann, right, and make it feel more like a coffee piece. And the best part about this, these backgrounds you can install. So I could do a coffee shop in Golden Gate University, and so the two of us could do an interview and look like we're anywhere. There we go. Okay, let's see if I can come back. All right, good. So now we're back, Larry. So yeah, those are all multiple different ways that you can maybe get different cameras on. Sound good, Larry?
Thank you, John.
Yeah, you're welcome. So like I said, there's so much power inside of Zoom that a lot of people don't know about, and so I'm glad that you're here. I hope again that you're seeing or discovering something that you haven't seen before. Even after 3 years, it's kind of like a car, right? As a car, we know how to get a key, we know how to drive, we push some pedals. But cars have all these other features inside of it. And your virtual meetings are the same way. And so I invite you to discover one of these tools and just, decide what's one of these I could actually try in a future meeting. Okay, so I'm going to continue on with good looks, and I'm going to give a scenario here with my friend. So what I want you to do is take a look at this. And while I tell you this story, do me a favor, go to the chat, right, and chat me, what do you see, and what does it mean to you? What do you see, and what does it mean to you? So for instance, I see his Rolex watch. I like watches, so I know that he's either into watches or has a lot of money to spend on fancy watches. Okay? So while I tell this story, go ahead and take a moment and look through this. See what you see. This is one of my good friends, and this is what he sent me. And he told me that he changed his background after he heard me talk about good looks. He was turned, originally he was turned 180 degrees around, meaning that his camera, right, was pointed into the window. For those who know anything about cameras, means you know that he was a dark silhouette. So you couldn't see the features of his face because he had this bright window behind him. Also, he had 2 lace doily curtains because he had to take over his wife's office during the pandemic because he couldn't go back into his. So when you learn about what he does, you'll see that this background really helped him in what he did. And I'll show you some things that makes this background very, very unique. Let's see. I see some distractions around him. Okay, that's good. He looks like a stockbroker or trader. Good. I see stock market information related to Lyft. That's right. That's good. Oh, Michael pegged out the chessboard on the right. Excellent. Following distraction, wondering what that is. Good, Michael. Michael, do me a favor. Either unmute or chat. What does this mean to you when you see a chessboard?
Doesn't look like a chessboard to me. Looks like a strange objects, and it's distracting because you wonder what's going on.
Okay, well, good. I'll help you. This is like soapstone. You know those soapstone chessboards?
Yeah, now that you mention it, yeah, I see what I can say what it is. I see that, but without knowing it, it's like it's irrelevant whether it's chessboard or looks like a bunch of strange, I don't know, rubber stamps or something.
Now that you know it's a chessboard, does it mean anything to you?
No, it's still a distraction.
Great. Devin said strategic thinker. Right? Alessandra said strategy.
Really?
Really? You know, Michael, Michael, have you ever read the book Blink? Malcolm Gladwell's book. Right? And what did Malcolm Gladwell's book Blink say?
It was whatever it was. Malcolm Gladwell says what he says in the first chapter and then keeps repeating it throughout the book.
That is correct too.
I don't know. Was that some minor point?
I'll help you out with it, Michael, which is we take our lifetime of experiences and it allows us as humans to make snap judgments about stuff and for the most part be right. Right? So even your snap judgment about this chessboard being distracting is right. But I'm just saying other people snap judged, like Devin said, he was a strategic thinker. And I'll tell you the value of it is that, right, here's the key. My friend hasn't said anything at all yet.
I mean, if I had a balloon, a balloon on my background, would you think, wow, he has high goals? I mean, come on. You know, he's got a pretty balloon in his background. I mean,
excellent. Thank you, Michael. I'm just curious, you know, what other challenges do you have too in your virtual meetings, Michael?
some of the people don't use the same clues that they use for conversations in real life. Like you said, talk about people cutting each other off. Well, cutting each other off is a useful tool, as is acknowledgement, like you're saying now, like you're doing now, that the person's gotten their point.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, people tend to go on, not realizing the other people have the point because no one's cutting them off.
Yeah, true, Michael.
Next thought.
Michael, you remind me of one of my favorite tips, which is like, oh, Michael, your audio's cutting out. I don't know. Well, we got your point, but we're going to move on to the next person, right? Sometimes that we've had to cut people off who are, and sometimes pretend that there is a technical challenge just so we can move on with the meeting.
Just speak over them like I am you right now, because that's what you do in real life. Yeah, I got your point. You don't have to say it the fourth time.
Perfect. Thank you, Michael. Yeah, I feel, Michael, do you teach, or are you a professor, or you moderate? I'm just curious.
I used to, in my former life, I was giving presentations between 250 and 500 a year.
Yeah.
So yeah, small groups, and you come to the point, make it, move on, get people to remember it, all the, public presentation trips. But virtually, my last company, we did, all the meetings were camera off, everyone camera off. And so it was like a group call, and we did presentations and all, but it was nice because there was no distraction. You didn't have to sit here, you could walk around, you didn't have, and people were also a lot more willing to be at the meetings every day if they didn't have to put on a nice shirt and the background and all that, because the main thing you're after is the information.
Yeah. So, and again, every company culture, there are a lot of companies that like the culture becomes either camera on or camera off. All right, Michael, one of the big aerospace companies I heard saw the research around Zoom fatigue and said that the video, they said, was the problem with it. So the company went video off afterwards. Again, there's some benefits. Some people loved it. But on the other hand, right, you miss a lot of these other visual cues when you could have them. We have the technology capable of doing them.
I think it depends on what you're trying to convey. If it's technical information, this is what I've been doing, this is what I've done, this is what I'm going to be doing next. Then why have video? I mean, you're not. There's no subtlety.
That's right. So I
don't really care whether you're upset or had a bad day or bags under your eyes or bored. You've got to produce.
Thank you so much, Michael. Because Michael brings a really key point, which is pick the right channel and venue for what you're doing, which is sometimes audio only might be better based upon whatever your goal is for the meeting. All right, anyways, a lot of people here saw a lot of things. Let me help you decode what's going on in this background. So hopefully you saw a lot of these things. Okay, we saw the chessboard, we have some controversy. You saw the Rolex, the suit. Some people saw his smile, right? His smile is inviting. People quickly picked up on C-SPAN. So he said, I wanted to feel like a newsroom. So he put his television, turned it on a CNBC and turned it on mute. Right, so that he got the impression that he was up on current events. He has a journal. This is pretty unusual. He has a journal, so it said like I'm reflective. And then he had a book. Some people noticed the books here. This book, Do One Thing Every Day That Scares You. Right, and I looked at this book on Amazon. It turns out if he has an original copy of this book, it's worth $1,000. It's worth $1,000. But here's the reason why I'm showing this. It's not what you see. It's what you don't see. Look again. He's created this image. He has almost no hint of a computer. What he did was he put a table in front of his table. And then he puts his table on here and puts the laptop on the table and angles the camera so it hits the bottom of the desk. Then he starts the meeting and walks around and sits down. This gives him two advantages. The two advantages is the two advantages are this. It feels exactly like if you were sat across from him at his desk, right? Which triggers a whole bunch of like business anchors. And the second one is he's self-admittedly a little ADHD. He can't touch his computer during the meeting. He has to focus solely on the relationship and the conversation. So it helped him focus on side of here. So again, and then he gave you this natural part where he's always showing his hands because you can see his desk. So it gave him a whole bunch of advantages, whether you like it or not. I will tell you the one thing he told me. He's the chief revenue officer for a fast-growing consulting company selling to the Fortune 500. He started closing more deals. That's how important good looks can be to this place. All right, so now we're going to hit something a little more interactive here. And, oh, good. Let's see. We have the right number of people. Okay, good. So what we're going to do is do a piece here. I'm going to show you how to get productive with virtual tools, with a tool that's outside of Zoom. So what in a second, you're going to get into, let's see, I think you're going to be in 4 breakout rooms. So let me do a favor. I'm going to spread you around. And then I'm going to give you a link in just a minute. I'm going to unassign one of the teams so you can hang out with me in the main room. Okay, good. And let's see. And you'll have 8 minutes once this breakout room starts. Okay, so now let me get a link to you. And I'm going to give you a link to a series of Google documents. And what I'm going to do is it'll be in the chat in just 1 minute here. Let's see, let me make sure I get the right ones. Oh, there we go. Okay. Thank you for the delay. Okay, there we go. So click and then click on your room when you enter the breakout room. Okay, so we're gonna have a Google Doc. There you go. There should be a main room, and then you'll also be in rooms 1, 2, and 3. And you won't know what room you're in until I open the breakout rooms. But here's the guidelines of the game. Number 1, rhyming is the name of the game. Number 2, don't forget to start with your name. Number 3, make sure everyone has a turn. Number 4, add as many lines as you can before you adjourn. Don't be shy, be proud, pick a friend to read it aloud. In a moment, you're all going to get, everyone in your room should get on the same Google document. You're going to create a poem about engaging virtual meetings about what you learned. All right, it's a little bit like a debrief. At the beginning of every line, you're going to write your name. So for instance, I would write John, and then I might write an opening line like, I learned about engaging virtual meetings. What you want to do is the person who shares your screen in the breakout room, please make sure that everyone has an opportunity to contribute one of the lines before the end of 8 minutes. Okay, so you're going to try and engage everyone. If you're finished before the time is up, there will be a timer in the top right corner. You can keep adding lines, right, until you're done. And then at the end, before you come back to the room, please have one of your people be ready to read your poem aloud. If you have any questions, you can actually click the button and ask for help. I'll also jump between the rooms and make sure that everyone is okay.